question starts like this. Pros and cons of opening an Onlyfans. So I just graduated and found a decent job, STEM, but I quickly realized I can't stand wasting half my waking time working. It's just not worth it. I have some girlfriends that left their previous jobs and opened an OnlyFans. Most of them don't get as much money as they got from their older jobs, sure, but all of them earn enough to survive well without any other kind of job. Showing myself nude to strangers isn't something I ever considered before. Good. But working full-time is just so miserable that I'm seriously considering it. Do you think it's a good idea? My biggest fear is that if I change ideas again to try another normal job, my sex working career could damage my reputation. Okay. So I'd like to start answering this question let's be positive. First of all right? It's very easy to look at a message like this and just start calling names and laughing and making fun of the situation. Be very easy to do. It might come later. I can't promise anything. But let's just start with the positives here, the sympathetic part of this. I am very sympathetic to this woman. I assume it's a woman. She actually makes no mention. If this could be some, like, dude, I suppose, but I really don't think so. Gonna assume it's a woman. I am sympathetic for this woman because I think it is a temptation that anyone can understand if you really believe that I could do something that seems so simple and make a lot of money doing it, and my life is in a place where I want to change anyway. I don't like where I am. It obviously is going to be very tempting. Like, as an example, right? Before I became Catholic, I did a lot of jobs delivering packages, all right? And I wasn't happy with my life at the time. It wasn't like I wasn't in a good place in life. And if you had told me that I could have made six figures sending people pictures of my balls, I would have been delivering very different kinds of packages, let's just say that. Also, I am very sympathetic to the fact that this woman, you've been failed by, like, everyone in your life, all right? First of all, just obviously, you've been failed by the education system. You have spent at least 4 years, if not, the average is higher than that nowadays. You have spent at least 4 years getting a degree in a field that you didn't know if you were going to enjoy. That is the most basic sort of failure in the education system that could easily be fixed. Easily. First day of college, you should be shadowing some person who does that job. Let's say it's engineering. I don't know, you just said STEM, it's vague, to some extent. But, like, let's say you're a civil engineer, right? Your first day should have been just following around a civil engineer at a normal day in their job. So you could look and say, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this every day. Instead, you went to college for 4 years, which is nothing at all similar to a real working job. Like, the stuff you do in college to prepare, quote unquote, for a job is nothing like what you actually do at the job. So the education system has completely failed you. And I'm sympathetic to that. That's not your fault, right? I mean, yes, you were presumably an adult by the time you signed on for it, but you were somewhat sold a false bill of goods to some extent. You should have gotten better advice, all right? Hence the name of the show, I suppose. And also, topically, with the name of the show, your parents have failed you in this regard. Now, again, your parents were probably propagandized towards, but they have free will. They're supposed to be wiser. They're supposed to have life experience. They're supposed to advise you on things. Neither of them, as if there's like 30, neither of your parents apparently had any sort of advice about maybe thinking about what you want to do with your life, or just hey, maybe if you're gonna go into biomed, you should ask somebody who does that job what it's like. Maybe you should do some research on the actual working conditions of the job and not just look at the same two things that everybody looks at. What is my income and how quick do I make that income? Like, how much money can I make and when? You should have had better advice from your parents. So your parents have failed you. And to what degree that's their fault, I don't know. Considering the fact that you're contemplating a sex working career, as you said, I'm guessing you didn't have the best parents, if they were present at all. But certainly in this regard, they didn't do very well. They should have sort of guided you towards finding what you actually want to do with your life. And that leads me to basically the answer to this question, which is, should you start an OnlyFans? No, absolutely not. Let me answer the question in the terms you put it. You asked for pros and cons of opening an OnlyFans. Let me give you the pros, and then I'll give you the cons, right? The pros are that if it is successful, that if is important, and we'll come back to it. If it is successful, you stand to make a lot of money for doing something that at least seems very easy to do. You will be having your own business. You'll be working your own hours. You'll somewhat be your own boss. Of course, you'll have like clients, and we'll get into that aspect as well, I think. But you'll have your own hours. It's not a location dependent job, so you can travel if you're making that much money. There's potential upside there, mostly coming down to the fact that it could make a lot of money. That I see as that is the short list of pros, and I don't see any other pro than that. Don't at me with some sort of BS about how it's empowering or something. That's complete BS. I'm not buying it. This is about money, clearly. So that's what I see as the pros. The cons, I think, are I could spend an entire day going over the cons, but we'll go over some obvious ones. First of all, I've said the sympathetic part now. Now I'm going to say the parts, some of which might seem a little rude. I mean this out of a place of caring. I hope you can do better with your life. As I choke. Let's just start with, you sound lazy, all right? And I don't even mean that as an insult necessarily. I guess lazy might not even be the right word. Maybe unmotivated, right? You're asking for a get-rich-quick scheme. You're asking, how can I not work? Which, the reason that's a problem, everybody wants it. Everybody most people, I guess, desire to be able to not work and yet make a lot of money. Normally so that they can work at something else. It's not laziness necessarily, but not motivation. You don't have motivation to do what you're doing currently, which is fine. That's normal for a lot of people who have terrible wage slave jobs. I get it. So I'm not saying you're lazy, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and start working, just slave away for the rest of your life, which maybe that's the advice you got. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, your motivation here seems to be trying to avoid work, and you're asking if you should start a business. Right? Let's just put it put it plainly here that you are asking if it is a good idea for somebody who doesn't have a work ethic. Again, this is not accusatory, but it sounds like you don't have much of a work ethic, and you're asking if you should go into a career which will take just as much, if not more, work ethic. Because let's be clear, all right? I am no fan of sex working in any way, but I cannot deny that it is work, all right? That doesn't make it good. I don't believe in the Protestant work ethic of, hard work somehow equates to like morality or something. Not that many Protestants believe that either, to be clear. But what I'm saying is, it's work. If you start an OnlyFans, you got to realize it's like starting a YouTube channel or something. YouTube's not going to advertise you. I mean, not really. An OnlyFans is definitely not going to advertise you. You're going to have to be a one-woman advertising team. You're going to have to figure out how to find a niche to compete with what somebody else, answering your question, referred to as hoflation. How are you going? You think you're the only one who's thought of this. It does not matter how pretty you are. There's always a bigger fish, and the economics of hoflation lead to the fact that you are going to have to find a niche that you can corner, or you're just not going to be successful. And the chances of you being successful at all, just statistically, are very low. The average woman makes nothing on OnlyFans, and I'm kind of assuming that the women who are telling you that they make enough to live off of on OnlyFans are either exceptions. You could call them lucky exceptions, but I think that really depends on your point of view. Or they're lying to you. I don't know your friends. I don't know how good your friends are. Again, if you're considering a sex working career and none of your friends are saying, hey, wait up, let's think about this, Or if you're going into a field like this STEM career without ever having known even like what it is, and none of your friends like what it entails when you're working, and again, none of your friends are like, wait up, maybe you should, like, I don't know, find out the job you're getting before you get it. If none of them are saying that, I doubt the worth of your friends. Let's just put it that way. I don't know them. But I don't know if I trust them. I don't know if I trust that they're actually making that much money. And if they are, that doesn't mean you will. All right? It's just as simple as that. If you go into this, it is going to be a lot of work. And since your goal seems to be trying to avoid work, I don't think it's going to work for you. But that means there is a very high chance, statistically, that you will fail at this. But that does not mean that your naked pictures will no longer be on the internet. You see what I'm saying? You are making a deal with the devil. You are selling yourself for money with no guarantee of money. This is like, imagine you were a prostitute. I know that Onlyfans and prostitution are different, but let's just, for the sake of analogy, imagine you were a prostitute who has a John who is like, I want you to have sex with me. And you say, okay, my charge is $1,000. All right. And the John says, all right, we're going to have sex, and then I'm going to spin a wheel. And if one of those parts of the wheel, there's one sliver that says, I pay you $1,000, and the other parts say, you get nothing. Or, you know, apple pie to the face, or like, you get pranked, dude. Only one little sliver of this wheel says you get paid. Imagine that's the situation. Would you say, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess I'll have sex with this guy so that I can have a spin of the wheel, right? In the same way, you can't come back from this if it's not successful, which it will probably be. And then it will hurt other aspects of your life. And I think this is the core issue here that I see, other than the fact we can talk about the morality of it. But I'm trying to meet this woman where she is. So let's just start here, all right? What do you want to do with your life? Because the only motivation I see so far is that you want to not work at the job that you have right now. Because it's just not worth, as you said, wasting half of your waking time working. Okay, and like I said, that's why you shouldn't do OnlyFans, because you'll probably spend more time than that working. And work that's going to be worse in a lot of ways. Think of the kind of people you will have to deal with who are going to be sending you the most disgusting messages that you can't even imagine. I can't imagine the kind of messages that you will be getting. And you will have to patronize those people because they are patronizing you. So they are your patrons. Maybe literally, but I don't think Patreon allows that kind of thing. You see what I'm saying? In the actual definition of the word patron, they are your patrons. The job could be worse in a lot of ways, and it's not going to save you time. But my point, what do you want with your life? Let's say that you didn't have to work. All right? Let's say that you did have your bills paid for, because you're not even one of these people who thinks, I'm going to work OnlyFans for a couple years, make millions, and then retire, right? There are people like that, and if you were saying that, there's a whole other discussion to have. But you are not under that illusion. You understand that you are probably not going to make that much money. You don't understand that you're probably going to make no money, but you just want to pay the bills, all right? What comes after that? Okay? What do you want to do? The reason I ask this is if you don't know what you want to do with your life, then you don't know if any decision you make is going to get you closer or further away from it. That should be easy to tell, but let's just give an analogy. If you're in Los Angeles and you want to go to Vegas, which is, east, basically, maybe, I think it's due east or maybe northeast. It's east-ish, all right? But if you don't know where, from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, if you don't know where Las Vegas is, then you should not start on your journey because you don't know where you're going. Because if you don't know where Las Vegas is, you start going north, you're not going to make it there. Ever. Ever. It doesn't matter how far you go. You will never make it there, right? And so in the same way, if you think about the things that you might want to do with your life, there are a lot of them that this will cause you to never get there, okay? Here's an example, right? maybe you want to start a family somewhere down the line. If starting a family is east, then starting an OnlyFans is west. You are in the Pacific Ocean at this point. You are going the complete opposite direction. I'm not saying you can't come back from it, but you are going the opposite direction of what you want in life, if that is what you want in life. You haven't said, I don't know. Maybe you don't know. But my point is, you should find that out before making decisions that are permanent. Because this is a decision that is permanent. You can't take this back, right? And to sort of help you think about what you want to do with your life, I would ask you this, all right? It is a fact that at some point, this OnlyFans money, even if it comes in the first place, which is not a guarantee by any means, and it probably won't, but if it does and you make good money off it, or enough to survive like you're hoping for, at some point that will run out. 2 years in the future, 5 years in the future. You said you just graduated, so you're probably 22, 23. You know, maybe it lasts 10 years, 15 years even. Pretty crazy if it lasts that long, but let's say it does, right? Then what? Okay? You think you're miserable now working this entry-level STEM job? Think of how miserable you'll be when you're 35 and you're working the exact same job because the OnlyFans money ran out and you can't exactly put OnlyFans on your resume. Think of how miserable you'll be then, okay? I hope that gives you an idea. And is that what you want from life? What do you want, right? It doesn't sound like you want a career. It doesn't sound, so like, what do you want from your life? If you had the money paid for, what would you do? And whatever it is, really consider whether or not starting OnlyFans is going to hinder that. Because it probably is. OnlyFans is not really a forward-moving choice in any life that I could think of that you want to move towards. And especially, I just have to say, especially if you want a family, this is poison to that idea. This is the exact opposite. You are going to have a harder time finding anyone who wants to marry you. You might have to settle for someone worse. You might have to settle for someone who, I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe you had these problems and you settle for some guy who also had some problems in the past and you've both gotten over them in the future, maybe. But it's not going to make it easier. That's for sure. It's going to make it a lot harder. The woman also goes on to ask later, she says that she asked why there's a double standard that guys can have sex with all kinds of people and women can't. Women get judged for it. Let's see. Okay. Someone responded to her and said, once you become a sex worker, you can never be anything else. Which I don't think I know what they mean. Like, obviously you could get another job. Like, if you're a cashier, you could get a cashier at McDonald's job and, like, now you're not a sex worker. But you are, and as far as anyone else is concerned, you still are going to have that mark on you forever. So I get what they mean. What she asks is, I understand that, but I'm tempted because of my job. While paying good for an entry-level job, it's extremely stressful to me. I'm starting to think the red pill dudes that claim women aren't fit for a 9-to-5 job may have a point. But still, I don't want my sexual past damaging my future. Why can men have sex left and right and be praised for it while women are judged for it? It's unfair. Well, first of all, if you think there's a double standard between men and women, you have to understand that it goes both ways. There are things that women do that men would obviously be judged for. So that goes both ways. Second of all, it's simply, I don't know who your friends are, but once again, I doubt how good they are for you if this is the kind of idea you have. I don't have any friends who would be, like, happy that I was sleeping around with a bunch of people like that. I've never been around people really who are like, I mean, sure, I've met them, they exist, but like I've never been friends with those kind of people. So it's interesting that you think that is just society as a whole. Sure, if you live in the United States, we don't have a great society, but where do you live? Who do you talk to? You can change those things and be around people who don't feel that way. And also, just the idea that because this one job you have is stressful, you're resorting to sex working is insane. You don't have any other options. There's no other job you can think of that would be less stressful than engineering or whatever you're in. You're in what is I bet you're just in a really stressful work environment. Maybe do something else. Again, you've been failed. You have a 4-year degree in a field that you find stressful. That's terrible. And I feel for that. That's a terrible thing, and it's happened to a lot of people. It could have happened to me. I'm a dropout, luckily. But what I'm getting at here is you need to figure out what you want to do with your life. If you don't figure that out, you're not going to be happy. If you think you're going to be happy when you start doing OnlyFans because your bills are paid, you're not going to be. Right? That's not a fulfilling, paying your bills is not a fulfilling life goal. You need to figure out what you want to do. The way to be happy in life is to have a goal that you are working towards. That does not mean achieving that goal necessarily. It means working towards that goal and making clear steps towards it. You don't know what you want, so you cannot make clear step towards it. And if you ever find out what you want, you'll probably find out at the age of 35 that you actually want kids and you've sabotaged yourself for your entire life. Is it entirely your fault? No, I really question your parents here and obviously the education system and all these things. But is it mostly your fault? Absolutely, you're an adult and you have, you're asking for advice. That's good. You're asking for it on 4chan, let's be clear. Maybe that's not the best place, but, I found it, so here we are. I hope I'm giving good advice. Other than that, let's just go over the obvious stuff, okay? It's demeaning. It's wrong. You are not contributing to the world, but being a parasite off of it. You are taking advantage of people's addictions to pornography to suck their income out of them. You are becoming the real world equivalent, not that these don't exist, but the modern day equivalent. No, that doesn't really sound right either. You are becoming the human equivalent of a succubus, sucking the life force out of vulnerable, sinful men. That is not something that you can come home each day, even if you work from home, and feel proud of. It is going to be demeaning. If you are successful, you are going to feel like the only value you have is your body. If you are not successful, you are going to feel either that your body has no value at all, or the only value you have is your body, and it's not valuable. Those are not good. Your thoughts are influenced by your actions, and your actions are influenced by your thoughts. If you start acting in this way, then your thoughts will start going in this way. It is going to mess up your psychology. It is going to your psyche. It is going to make sex work, right? Just think about that for a second. Do you want to have any kind of successful relationship in the future? Think about the fact that you're going to make sex into work. That is going to change the way you think in a relationship fundamentally. You marry some dude in the future and then don't want to have sex with him because it feels like work. Just think about that, all right? And yeah, like I said, it's just obviously, it's wrong. You can disagree. Maybe you're not a Christian woman. It's doubtful based on, what you're asking here. But obviously what you are doing is scandalous. I mean, scandalous in the actual Catholic definition of you are doing something that is causing other people to sin. Or maybe a better term actually than scandalous, because scandalous has this implication, this connotation of a public figure, right? You might also say that what you're doing is diabolical, right? And I mean that because it is what the devils do. You are doing something to tempt people into sin. Now you can give the old libertarian cope of, well, they would do it anyway. Sure, but that's that doesn't justify it, right? Now this is an extreme analogy, but I wouldn't say just because some old person is going to die tomorrow, and I know that for a fact, that I can shoot them, right? That doesn't make it okay, although I guess the medical industry in certain countries, Canada for instance, would disagree actually, but that's my point. That's most of what I have to say about why you should absolutely not do OnlyFans. And like the title of this sort of series of videos implies, this is something your dad probably should have told you, or at least made clear through actions. I'm guessing that your dad wasn't around. If he was, maybe you should talk with him and find out why the message of there's more valuable things than money didn't get passed on. Because you seem to be willing to sell your dignity for just enough money to pay the bills, which is the worst deal with the devil I've ever heard of, right? Can't you at least like sell your soul for like ruling the world or infinite wealth or something? I don't know. It wouldn't be a good idea then either, but at least it'd be a little more understandable. You should find out what you want to do with your life and then figure out if sex work is going to get you closer or further away from that. That is my advice. Take it as you will. You may never see this because the thread that I got this from has already closed. So I would have posted it as a response, but now it's gone. But feel free to spread this around and maybe it'll find its way to this woman, or it'll find its way to somebody else who's having this question and is wondering, should I start an OnlyFans? If you found any value out of this piece of advice, out of this video, out of this show, I ask that you give whatever you thought it was worth in return. That is the model we go off of with this channel. So if you thought this was worth $1, I ask that you give $1. If you think that I just saved your life and you think it's worth $1,000, give $1,000. Whatever you think. I do have a bunch of kind supporters who I often thank. I've already thanked them this month, the ones who give monthly, so none today that I'll be mentioning. But some people think this is worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Some people think it's worth a couple bucks. Both are valid because it's up to you to say what it's worth. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope this has been useful. God bless. Bye-bye.